How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Coach's Corner here on Heart of Ohio Sports. We are live here in the bullpen at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. And today we have a couple special guests joining us today. We got a familiar face and another familiar face here as Coach Ed Phillips from Seneca East Football Tigers joining us here on the program. And, of course, Dominic Helmstetter from our Friday night broadcast crew from the X-Stream.
The X-Stream. It's the only stream, Nate. Come on, let's be real on
All right,
this.
we're going to compete
the only
here.
Stream.
I guess you got to compete whenever you got a chance, right?
Throw up the X, or how do you throw up the A? I'm not sure how that works, Nate.
Yeah, like this.
There you go. There you go.
You better have something good.
I guess. He's bringing the fire
cool.
today. All right, so, Coach, let's talk. This is my opinion of the rivalry game of the year when it comes to like the backyard brawls. I mean, you got a lot of backyard brawls. You got Calvert Hopewell. You got, Mohawk and Cary. You got Seneca East and Cary. But I think this one's, to me, this has got the most passionate fan base behind it from both sides. And this one, I think, from my perspective, I circle this one on the calendar every year. But I know you guys just treat every game like it's one game at a time, so I'm not going to talk like that. But, Coach, this is another rivalry game, and, you've had quite a few of them here at Seneca East. Talk about this Mohawk team.
Yeah, it's turned into something special. It's turned into, I think, a big deal between the two teams. And, obviously the league, Mohawks had a lot of success. We've had a lot of success. So it's a special night. It's, there's certain places that I look forward to going and playing. When we go over there, I enjoy it. It's just kind of a neat atmosphere. And it reminds me a lot of home. It reminds me a lot of our old field. When we used to go back in the day down right in Attica.
Oh, that was.
And I think that for myself personally, it's kind of cool. But I think for the fans, a lot of the places in the N10 are, there's similar kids, similar schools. But I think maybe Mohawk and Seneca East have even more in common. A lot of the coaches, everybody knows everybody now. And it's kind of weird for me because as I say that, I remember it wasn't long ago. And I think I talk to you every year during Mohawk Week.
Oh, yeah.
And so it wouldn't be a Mohawk Week without you.
That's right.
Also, which is fantastic. It makes you feel good that the games are watched and people care about it. And But it's a lot of fun, and it is a great rivalry. And I think something special, not just in the league, but even, in the region, people know that this game's going on in our region and their region because, it's playoff time of year.
Oh, yes,
and
it
it's
is.
an exciting time of year. And we've put ourselves in a pretty good position, and, they've put together a pretty good string here lately. So it's a big night for all of us.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about the momentum your kids have been picking up? I mean, the last 2 weeks, they've looked good. They've played great. What's been the change? What's been the difference here?
My kids they're tougher than heck, and we've gone through a lot this year. And I told them after the game last week how proud I was of them. And because we've been banged up and we've missed some people throughout the year. We've moved people around. And they've really responded. And as the game was coming to an end last week, I just got to thinking. And then after the game, I told the guys, I said, as a coach, you want one thing, no matter what your record is. You want to be able to look at your team and say, hey, in week 1 we were this good. And right now we're in week 7 going to week 8. We want to be better. And I think that the team right now is playing better than it has all season. And they've kind of found themselves, my friend Jeremy Nutter used to always talk about finding your identity, and I think we've kind of found our identity, and kids have kind of found their role because when you're searching and moving and adjusting throughout the season, sometimes it takes a little time to find your role, and I think the kids have found their role and embraced it, and some kids have just gotten better. As I looked around that room and I was talking to him after the game last week, I just looked around and thought, man, if you told me he was going to be that good 7 weeks ago, I'd say, heck yeah.
Yeah.
And they've just improved and made themselves better, really proud of that. And that's proud of the kids, proud of my coaches because they've helped make them that good. So we're in a pretty good spot right now.
Who do you think surprised you the most individually? Which one of those players that kind of stepped up and really taken the opportunity.
Dom, you're asking him to single out a player.
I know
he doesn't do this, right?
He's going to bring up the offensive line, the defense. It's going to be something, but I want names, Coach. I want names, all right?
All of them?
All of them. There you go.
You got it. That's the show, everybody.
And that's true, man. I looked around that room last week, and I looked at our offensive line. I thought, man, they've really improved. They're a lot better. And, after the game, one of them said, Aiden, I'll give you a name, Aiden Homer. He's like, Coach, we came off ball in that one play, and I got under him, and I was bear crawling. I just dug him out of there. And at the beginning of the year, we weren't physical enough to do that. But now they are, and they understand that. And they, just the simple concept of, we've got some big guys, but, like, we weren't playing with great leverage at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And they understand that now, and they've improved at it, and so that's a great thing. I mean, on the perimeter, I knew we had some talent at the beginning of the year. But on the perimeter, we've just improved. And those kids they're really making plays right now, and so all of them.
Yeah. What do you think this means to the seniors? I mean, it's got to be important for them. What do they do for your team?
Yeah. The seniors always mean everything. I've watched this class grow up. My boys in it. So I know them probably a little better than other years because, some of them came over and stayed overnight in my house as they were kids. So that makes it a little more emotional. But they've always been really good workers. And they weren't always the most talented team. But they always stuck together and they always worked really hard. And to see them reap those rewards and kind of be where they're at right now in the thick of things is it's really gratifying, and you like to think that your program promotes things like that, and to see it kind of come to fruition with these kids and the group and knowing them so well is makes guy feel really good.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, I mean, it's been a while since we've been able to cover. You guys covered the Colonel Crawford game.
Yeah.
We were back there for the Willard game. So hopefully, third time's a charm here, Coach. We're going to get you a win this time, I promise, all right?
If not, you ain't coming back.
I'm saying that the only 2 losses you guys had, we were there for. So, but no, Coach, since that Willard game, you guys have really put together some really sound football on both sides of the ball and special teams as well. I really want to talk about you guys in the trenches, though, because I feel like as I watch this team over the years, you guys are always formidable. Offensive or defensive line, you control the line of scrimmage in whatever game you're in. Is that kind of your MO when you start the season? Do you start with the idea of this is where we're going to be successful? It starts with the offensive and defensive line.
Yeah, and that starts with, any coach says that and believes that and wants that. And we preach that, right next to, in our weight room, we've got a board where we put the workouts on it, and then during the games we put adjustments on it. And right next to it is, a saying from Coach Saban, talking about, how he wants his team and how he wants his lines in particular play. And we refer to that and we talk about it all the time. And, I've told the kids this season in particular, we feel like the N10 is very competitive, maybe as competitive and as balanced as it's ever been. I've told the kids for really all season, hey, you got to be ready for a 4-quarter war.
Yeah.
Last week's really the first week where we've been in a game and had a little time to breathe and enjoy it in the end. Most weeks we've got done in our wins, and you're happy, but you're just emotionally exhausted.
It's a sigh of relief.
Yes.
Yes, it is. And that's gratifying too, but man, it's nice to like enjoy the 4th quarter and enjoy the kids and get everybody in and have some fun. I remember after the Upper game, I felt like, if you remember when you're kids, they used to have, it was like the Arcola Play of the Week, and I remember like part of their advertisement was carrying Kellen Winslow Sr. off the field. After that, like one of the longest games ever in NFL history. Yeah. And I told the kids, I said, I don't know if you remember who Kellen Winslow was, but when they carried him off the game after that Chargers game, that's how I feel right now.
Yeah.
just emotionally exhausted, and that's part of the season. I think that's one thing that sometimes people that don't coach or aren't in it don't understand the energy it takes and the emotion it takes to coach and to go through a game. And there are weeks that when you get done, even when you win, you enjoy it, but you're happier for the kids.
Yeah.
Because this is their one shot at it, and I've been doing it a while now, and when we finish games this season, I've kind of looked at those kids, and it just makes you feel really good inside, even when the tank is empty.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, you guys have a habit of doing that for whatever reason. I've been there to cover some great games. I was there for the Buckeye Central Grant Loy double overtime game a couple years ago.
That was a shot heard around the world in Attic, Ohio. That's what we call it.
That was probably my favorite game that I've ever covered in person. One of my all-time favorite games. But you guys seem to do that. I don't know what it is, but you guys play tough no matter who you play. And you got some tough matchups coming up, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this Mohawk matchup this week, and I know you're not going to talk about these matchups that are coming up on the schedule. But
Carrie.
Yeah. Well, that's
I'll
3 weeks from now. We're not talking about that yet. I know, Coach Phillips, we take this one game at a time here. So let's talk about Mohawk. We've been able to cover them twice this year. Both times that we covered them as well, they lost. So, I mean, something's got to give here. Something's got to give.
Is that supposed to make me feel better?
50-50 chance.
50-50 chance.
Everybody's equal.
Yeah.
But no, they have a young quarterback trying to find himself within this offense. Their offense, I think, is still trying to find their identity, and we're now going into week 8 here. As you watch this team from afar and you guys prepare for them this Friday, what are your impressions of this team? What stands out to you on film?
Yeah, it's different in the sense that I think when you think of Senegi's Mohawk, a lot of times you think of like just going out and beating the crap out of each other.
Bludgeoning football, yes.
And we'll both try to do that. But they throw the ball a lot this year, and they've got some skill on the perimeter, and their young quarterback's doing a good job. And obviously the Fry boy's a great player, and they try to get him in space, and he makes a lot of plays. And that's the challenge with them is to contain their big plays and limit that. And that's a huge challenge. So, when I think of them offensively, that's what I think of. When I think of them defensively, they're very aggressive.
Yeah, they really do.
They still play that old school, 5-man front to a certain extent, but they bring a lot more pressure, I think, this year and blitz a lot more people than they have in the past.
Do you think that's a result? Do you think that's because of their? I feel like as I watch them, the 2 times that I got a chance to watch them this year, it just seems like their defensive line's a little bit undersized. Maybe that's why they're bringing more pressure this year.
They're now. Mohawk. I think one thing they take pride in is in a lot of years they haven't had the biggest guys. But
for sure.
But they're tough and they're fast. And,
they really do.
And they've got great speed at linebacker this year, and those kids are good at bringing pressure. So I think that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
They obviously want to put some heat on you. They play a little bit more man coverage, and when you play a little bit more man coverage, and you're probably going to match it up with some pressure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about the future here. Nate wants to talk about Mohawk here.
I've interviewed this guy a few times, so I know how to play the game here. At least to get the answers I want to get,
So, all right.
I can leave. The date's
open. Greg, can you close that for us, please? So, hey, is it too simplistic to say that you control your own fate when it comes to the Northern 10?
No, I'm not that full. Yeah, I mean, mathematically, it's all right there.
Yeah.
And I have matured in the sense that every once in a while I do look at websites. I do know how many points we have in that. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Sounds like you're looking ahead.
Yeah, all right. Welcome to the dark side, Coach.
Seating, I've never heard about this.
And, I don't think I would still be coaching if I didn't embrace how kids are today.
Yeah, that's true.
And part of it makes me feel good because, there was time when I was a young coach, I was old school, and it was like, this, and this. But these kids, they're not that way anymore.
Yeah.
They're footloose and fancy free and like doing stuff, and they like being on their computers, and to a certain extent, you got to know what gets their attention. Yeah. And some of this stuff gets their attention, and you know what? I have more fun with them. Probably than when I was a young coach, and as a young coach, you probably got to be that way a little bit more. Yeah. But I feel like I'm around them a lot. I hope that I'm a big part of their life, and I enjoy them more on a daily basis, and that's what makes me do this day in day out. multiple times of the year because I do football here in the fall and I do track in the spring.
Yeah.
In fact, if I don't forget, I brought some T-shirts because last year when we made the playoffs,
Really?
I had a T-shirt laying on my desk with Nate Mullins on it because you said you wanted a T-shirt.
I did.
There you
I
go.
hate this guy. I'm telling you.
Hey, Judd, where's my T-shirt? I want to know.
I brought two. I actually don't have the one from playoffs year, but last year because I think I gave that away to somebody else.
Of course.
As I was sitting in school day and I knew I'd come over, I got to grab some
it.
T-shirts. So I do have a T-shirt for you.
I appreciate
but,
that.
I just you get older, you think of things outside the box, and so
absolutely.
things like that are fun.
Absolutely, I
'cause
completely
it's fun,
agree.
Even though I'm. I changed some things I say to you. Keep bringing me back. I'll say something.
Oh yeah,
I'll say something different next year.
I love these interviews. I'm gonna every year you're gonna be on here. Sorry, I mean that's just how it is.
Kind of reminds me of the jersey swaps in the NFL.
That's right.
Yeah, we need to get it autographed.
Well, we'll make sure we send a nice Heart of Ohio Sports shirt your way on Friday. How about
That's
that?
fantastic.
All right. So, Coach. Dom, you got any other questions for Coach?
Did I answer your question?
Well,
I
mean, a little bit.
I go off on some tangents.
No,
everybody's the
It's
player.
awesome.
Everybody is the player of the team there. I didn't get a name at first, so I love everybody. I get it.
Hey, Mohawk went for Kerry.
There we go.
That's enough said because I mean, you talk about
that's a tough slate.
It's a gauntlet.
There's a lot of football there. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of success for all those programs, and I think that's what makes our league great. And I think that's what makes football around here great because I look over here and I see Judd over here, and you look at the SBC, and he and I were just talking there, and I'm talking Mohawk and Winford Carey. He's talking Perkins, Bellevue, Clyde, Norwalk, and you add up the wins for those 7 or 8 schools I just said, and the success they've had in the playoffs, and
it's a lot.
There's not a backseat to many programs around.
This area breeds success.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So you're talking about the kids here. They've got their cell phones out. They clearly see everything. Is it hard sometimes just to keep them focused on a Mohawk because you've got Winford and Carey down the road, and what the standings look like, what the playoff points look like. That's a quote, by the way, his quote. But you know what's in front of you. Does it make it any harder right now because you still have to beat Mohawk?
No, because they like football and they like I do think that our program embraces the carpe diem, the seize the day, and we like practice.
Oh yeah.
My favorite part of coaching it isn't always the games, it's practice. And I know I've said that to you before, but it's true, and that's why it probably always comes up when I'm talking to you. I like practice because it's when you're around the kids, and the one thing that matters is making them better, helping them understand what this play is about. That allows them to be successful on Friday night. And I think the kids know that they understand. I mean, I have fun at practice. I have fun in film. I have fun. I mean, when the kids work out, I work out with them.
This is true.
And they know that I enjoy what I do. I don't think it's any secret. They know I enjoy them. And I know I've said this before because anytime I talk about my team, I say this. A wise man once told me, I know you love those kids. Tell them. I tell them that on a regular basis. They know that.
There you go.
And even in tough times, and sometimes when you love people, sometimes you got to chew their butt out.
That's
you
right.
Don't chew their butt out every once in a while. We've done some really good things this year. You were talking about some of those wins, and as soon as you talk, at the beginning of our season, we were down 24-0 to Northwood.
Mm-hmm.
And we're on the brink of having a running clock, and we come back to win that game. And it's as good a regular season win as I've ever been around. It's right up there with Buckeye Central. It's right up there with Mohawk. I remember we beat Mohawk in the last play of the game. Back around. Might have been that same. I think it was a year or two later.
I think it was 2 years later.
But just some fantastic stuff. And it's like I told you before we went on camera. Those things don't get old. They don't get worse. They only get better. I've got all kinds of emotions in me right now just talking about that stuff. And that's why we do what we do. And that's why, I went from, in the blink of an eye, being the youngest coach in the league to now I think I might be the oldest by by a fair amount, other than Jake Bruner. But Jake went away and took a vacation for a little bit, and then he came.
That means you're doing something right.
Came back.
Got to be doing something right.
Yeah.
And I know that Judd may not when we talk about it, but I look at a guy like Coach Nasani in Bellevue who's been doing this for so long, and sometimes I look at him and I remember as a young kid, I think, man, I don't know if I can do it as long as he's done it.
Yeah.
I still look at him and think, I don't know if I can do it as long as he's done it. But right now I'm having fun and enjoying it, and I can't imagine doing anything else in the fall.
Well, I will say, I went to Seneca East. When I went there, Frank Lamoureux was a coach. He's still down on your sideline.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tradition, there's a culture there, and it just you guys have. There's only been 2 coaches as long as I've known Seneca East football, and it's you and Frank. And I mean, that's the kind of culture that you've built over there, and
they're no Cleveland Browns, that's for sure.
that's the mark of a good program.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
It's cool to still have Frank around, and like we haven't lost. Knock on wood. Like you said, my coaching staff, they've changed positions here and there.
I remember Coach Walliser was one of my coaches as a junior high kid at Seneca East.
They're all still around. Coach Dick, he got a job to be with his family a little bit more at Old Fort this year, but he still came around to practice in the summer, and he's with us every Friday night. Yep. And our roles change, and that's one thing that I talk about a lot with all my coaches, but especially when somebody comes and volunteers. I let them know, hey, when you're volunteering, anything you can give the program is valuable. Yep. If it's one day, it's one day. If it's 5, it's 5. I think at first when I started coaching, people didn't want to do that. But now that they've seen it, been around enough, they know how important that is to me to have them around the program. So, having Frank Lamoureux come and help with junior high football is pretty special.
That's awesome.
Like this week, we're bringing the 92 MAL champs back. And that was back when Homer back in the day, and Fritz and those guys. They won the ML back in '92, so 30 years. Isn't that crazy?
That's so crazy.
Yeah,
man. Wow.
Yeah, you take me way back, Coach.
The only thing that would have made it better is if Jesse was still around, because that would have been, Jesse played for us last year, but it would have been cool to be able to have him be on the field the night that was 30 years after they had won the MAL. But that's life, and that's how it is. And Jesse will be there. It's not like our guy, Jesse Beckman. He comes back to every game, and a lot of the guys do. After every game, they'll come up and they'll say, hey, and that's what it's all about.
That's absolutely right. Speaks volumes to the culture you've created there.
I was going to touch on that thing that Dom said earlier about how these kids these days always have their phones in their hands and they're always staring at that, and how to get them focused on Mohawk. I bet you if their phones are in their hands and you tell them, Heart of Ohio Sports covered that Mohawk game on Friday night. They could be watching that.
They could be watching game film.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. Straight up.
There you go.
All right, Coach. Hey, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you're a busy man, but I really appreciate you coming on with us tonight.
It's fun. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thanks
Awesome.
again.
Yep.
Seneca
Appreciate it,
East
guys.
football
Good luck
coach
this
Ed
week.
Phillips.
Thank
We'll be stepping aside, taking a quick time out, but we'll be right back because we have Tiffin Columbian head football coach Judd Lutz joining us next on the Coach's Corner right here on Heart of Ohio Sports. Once again, we're live at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. Come on out and join us. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to the Coach's Corner. Nate Mullins, and now I have another special guest joining me. Tiffin Columbian head football coach Judd Lutz coming on the program with us. I want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to Seneca East football coach Ed Phillips once again for coming on. Great times under the learning tree with Coach Phillips.
That's right.
I'm telling you. So, Coach, we got you on here now. Let's talk about football. We didn't get a chance to cover your game last week. Wasn't happy about it, but, it happens.
Yeah.
But I hear good things.
Yeah, we won.
I saw good things.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
That's what I hear.
I think we might have won that game.
I think that was a W. Yeah. Talk about that win. I mean, that had to have been a great win for you guys, obviously. But I mean, going into Clyde, that is a tough place to play. It's not a very friendly place for Tiffin people. You guys went over there and just handled business. Now, obviously, that was a closer game than what the final score showed because it was 7-6 in the third quarter, right?
Yeah.
But you guys took care of business. I mean, this offense is really starting to roll right now. But talk about that win over Clyde.
Yeah. Tough place to play. Always and forever. I don't know what it is over there, but and they're a good team, obviously. A good team. Their home atmosphere. And well-prepared, well-coached team, obviously. And, tough rolling in the beginning of the game for a lot of different reasons. Our team experienced a lot of adversity throughout the week. We had kind of a bug go through as far as sickness went and a bunch of starters out several days. Also affected the coaching staff too. And so we were out there on Friday. We weren't all 100% in every capacity, but we were out there ready to roll and found a way to get it done. And, kudos to the kids. We haven't had to play a 4-quarter game for a couple weeks. And have gotten things really successful early and often, really for a long stretch.
Yeah.
And this was a game that offensively, didn't score a bunch of points right off the rip. And you can kind of hang your head or get frustrated, but kudos to the guys to keep pressing on. Not get too frustrated and not try to press things. Sometimes you try to make something out of nothing, and we had a lot of guys who didn't do that. Stayed within the game plan, stayed within the themselves, and obviously found a way to get it done. And like you said, the scoreboard didn't exactly dictate how close the game was for 4 quarters, but whether by 1 or 100, we got it done and moving on.
That's right, and moving on to the B team. We got you on. I'm not going to say that word.
I appreciate that.
I don't want the mean looks. I'm not trying to deal with the after effects here, the repercussions. But B team on the schedule. It's now right in front of you. So now we can talk about this game because obviously, we don't talk about games until they're here, and this one's here. So, man, this one's always a tough game every single year. But last year they came into your house, and let's just say they did something you didn't like.
Yeah,
and now you're going to go into their house. What's the attitude like going in? Do you guys carry a little bit of vengeance from last year, or is this just another game against Bellevue?
I'm not going to lie. I'll be transparent. We last year was last year completely. Different team. You have different turnover, but you also return a lot of guys. And, this entire offseason we would do 42 things, 42 push-ups, 42 sit-ups, 42 squats, 42 sets of something. And that was because in back-to-back weeks we gave up 42 points to Clyde and we gave up 42 points to B team. And, the Clyde game was close in a lot of ways and just didn't get it done. But the next week at home against those guys, we got out-hit. We got outplayed and really just didn't play well. And I vowed to a handful of people that will not happen again to anybody, and that will definitely not happen again to those guys. And so I know they're going to come over prepared, or we're going to go over there, and they're going to be prepared, and they're going to play physical. We know that. We've talked about an edge and an attitude, and that's who we are, not just for this game and only this game, but that's who we are, so just be who we are. And obviously, we're not going to create vengeance, and we're not out for blood or anything crazy like that. Last year is last year, but I would be lying if I wouldn't say it was completely forgotten. So they're a great team, a great head coach, and probably going to make some postseason noise for sure. And, we got to go over there and find a way to get a W.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you look at this team on film, you look at them on paper, obviously they're playing pretty well right now. But when you look at them on film, what stands out to you? What do you see about this team that you've got to prepare for this Friday?
They've done a really good job. And that's the other thing that makes, in my opinion, our conference really hard to win is that we have every single game of them on film.
Yeah.
They have every one of our games on film. Like, you don't experience that when you get to the playoffs. Typically you only exchange so many unless you find ways to get more film or something. But so they have a really good idea of who we are throughout the season and how we've evolved, and the same thing about them. We have a really good idea of who they were at the beginning and how they've evolved. And they've experienced a lot of injuries. They've had a lot of guys go down in different capacities that are now returning. And so we've watched them against some teams and, battle to find ways to win. And you would think, oh, they only beat this team by this many points, or they only scored this many points against so-and-so. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because I watch and they're like, it's because it's their backup quarterback, their third-string running back, and they have 2 offensive linemen out. Like, it makes sense why maybe they kind of took their good old time getting and grinding out a win. And so what I see on film is a really tough team who's getting healthy.
Yeah.
So we got to be prepared for, certain guys maybe coming back and having more significant roles in certain capacities. Obviously, they're hungry, coming off of a loss to a big game for them in Sandusky Perkins last week. And so we know we're going to get their best shot and they're going to be playing their best football. And hopefully we're doing the same.
Everything is right in front of you when it comes to the SBC. You control your own destiny from here on out. I mean, it's easier said than done, but you just got to win out. That is something that, this conference is just one of the toughest conferences in the area. Let alone in the area, but in the state of Ohio. You just don't see the kind of competition that you do week in and week out every week with the quality of play that you see from this conference. Now, when you have to prepare for these teams going into this game, obviously you've got Bellevue this week, you had Clyde last week, you got Perkins next week.
All 3 on the road.
All 3 on the road. That was my next point. Yes, all 3 on the road, and these are all tough environments to play in. Sometimes as a coach, when I'm thinking about everything that's in front of me, I'm like, man, is it going to give? Is there anything going to give here? Obviously, you're not asking for any breaks here, but when you look at this schedule at the beginning of the season, what do you say to yourself? Do you try to get some kind of an idea of what you're going to face, or do you just kind of try to take it one game? Obviously, you guys take it one game. What am I thinking? But when you look at this schedule ahead of time, when you're looking at it, in the off season, you see these 3 road games in a row against these tough conference opponents. What is your mindset in the off season? Obviously, you don't want to talk about these games during the season because it's one game at a time. But when you're in the offseason, I love that point that you made about the 42 push-ups, 42, all that. That stuff plays in. When you're talking in the offseason, you prepare for this schedule. What are the most important things that you prepare for?
I'll be honest. Every week you prepare for a certain team. You put a game plan in place, and you're doing a combination of 2 things. You're trying to increase your skill and or needed things to become a better football team in one bucket, and you're doing things directly related to being successful against your upcoming opponent in another bucket.
Yeah.
And it's a fine balance, and so you can't always just worry about the opponent and, what do we got to do to take care of them? You also have to just do what's going to make you better. And we do that in different capacities, and
that's a great way to look at it.
Have stolen things from, Nick Saban has Fix Us Mondays, and we put a lot of weight in first address our issues have had or maybe come last game that we need to fix right now, because again, if you don't fix those things, they're going to linger on. And and if you don't get better in one capacity, that will eventually get exposed.
Yes.
At some point. And so you got to address those things, but then there's also, game specific stuff that you just got to do that might be new, or you might need to refresh, blow off and dust off or whatever. And so, when you look at the whole season and the schedule, no. I didn't look at these 3 weeks as a meat grinder and think, oh, my goodness, what are we going to do? And, I just literally worried about beating Fremont.
Yeah. All offseason was just beat Fremont.
Beat Fremont and become the best team for us, but also, look at the schedule as a whole and develop an offense and defense, special teams that can combat those 10 games,
yes.
Knowing who's coming back and what capacities. And so you plan for one while also planning for 10 plus.
That's a great way to put it.
So again, 2 buckets, all off season. You're planning for the opener and also the bucket of the next 9 plus. And making you a better team. So
I guess the reason I ask that is I look at what you guys have evolved into this year compared to your offense last year. Last year, you guys liked to pass the ball around. You had a bevy of different weapons to throw to. You still have a lot of those same weapons to throw to this year. You still have the same quarterback, but this running game, I feel like that was an emphasis in the offseason at some point. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this coming with Damian. Obviously, you had a state champion running back last year, a state champion track athlete. You're going to give him the ball. He's a senior. Keyshawn did great things for this program. But I think a lot of us from the outside looking in didn't see this coming with Damian Brockington. And I think, maybe I'm looking at it from like a perspective of you knew you had this stretch coming in this 3-game stretch, this tough 3-game road stretch. That's why you had to get that running game going. And I feel like that's maybe was a point of emphasis in the offseason, like, hey, guys, we know we've got this tough stretch of games. We need to be road tested. We need to be battle tested. We need to be ready for that. The best way to prove that, especially this time of year, you got a good ground game going into this game. You can do anything you want to do on offense right now because they're seeing this game film. They're seeing this 1,000-yard runner who's already got double-digit touchdowns. He's putting up a ton of points on the season, putting up a ton of yards. They got their eyes set on that, but you also got a D1 quarterback back there slinging, dimes. So pick your poison with this Bellevue defense. They're going to have their hands full. When I looked at, that's the reason why I asked that question about your offseason preparations. Damian has really impressed me this year. Talk about his growth, his maturation. The kid's only a junior. He's still got another year of this coming up. Where did this come from?
Great coaching.
I love it. Yes.
No. Like
that's awesome.
It's we return a lot of great players and a lot of fancy tools and toys and our honest belief always and forever is RTFB, run the frickin' football.
That's right.
And like if you want to make deep runs in Ohio high school football, like you got to be able to run it and you got to be able to stop it most of the time.
Yep.
Like, I honestly believe you better have a passing attack too, and you better be able to stop the pass. You're going to run up against really good quarterbacks with really good weapons around them. Like, you can't be a one-trick pony in a one-instrument band. But, we feel like we have a really good offensive line. Not to say we didn't have a good one last year, but we felt like we had a good offensive line against really good run defenses. We just ran into some buzzsaws where that was not the advantage. We had more built-in answers in the pass game, or I should say options, not answers, but options last year. And so, pulling and throwing it and increasing those number of plays, it just happened to be there. Whereas this year, close some of those options because we just want to run the ball sometimes.
Yeah.
And not to take the ball out of a really great player's hand and Braden Rogo. Like, that kid's a winner. Like, yeah. And, you're going to see those things probably open up. And,
absolutely.
And, again, we threw the ball like 9 times against Toledo Wait. Like, probably didn't need to. Like, but you know what? At the same time, we have to.
Yeah.
For us. And so, it was an emphasis absolutely because again, good football teams run the ball and stop the run when it matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it matters.
And you absolutely don't want to be a one-dimensional type team.
Never.
And I got a question for you. I know you're not going to give any secrets away here or anything, but is there anything that maybe little tricks that you have up your sleeve still that you've saved so far this season that nobody's seen? That you might
we don't call
rainy day plays?
We don't call them,
they're not tricks.
We don't call them tricks.
Hey, I didn't say trick plays. I said tricks up your sleeve.
We call them wrinkles.
There we go. Wrinkles in the game plan.
Wrinkles, because again, last week the officiating crew came up and they said, "Is anything you guys do that's unconventional?" And I kind of looked at them and said, "Everything we do is unconventional." and they kind of didn't know how to take that.
That's the most maverick answer I've ever heard. Everything we do is unconventional.
Tricks or, again, keep them off balance, however you want to say it. I think you got to have a handful of those things every game and then some certain games. And, sometimes you have, 1 or 2 of them, in your back pocket, ready to roll, and you don't need them. Or maybe you forget. I rarely forget because that's, about the only thing I have to worry about. I think last time we talked, I don't call the plays. I don't call the defense. I don't call the special teams. I call the timeouts. And I also put myself in charge of wrinkles. someone called trick plays.
That's why you're so young looking.
Yeah.
Taking care of the wrinkles.
And, yeah, that's all I got to worry about. And
that was a horrible joke. Sorry.
I mean,
so
it's
I
a
would
good
say-
thing you haven't had to use them because that's the kind of situation you want. You don't want to have to use.
You know,
those things.
I coached in a state championship game that we ran two different hook and ladders, and I think a reverse and a reverse pass. 4 wrinkles, quote unquote wrinkles, and an onside kick. I've been a part of games like a late season week 10, week 12 playoff game where like we ran 2 hook and ladders, the other team ran a curl and ladder. There was an onside like. You got to have some things ready to go just in case. I honestly believe that, and it makes it fun too. Like in the
it really
week and
does.
having a couple of those things. So,
Yeah. Finding those moments to slip them in there.
yeah. So if the B team, Coach Nasani's listening, we about 20 things that we'll probably run in the first.
I think it's 30 things actually.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, you got your hands full, man. I mean,
Yeah.
tough stretch of games. Obviously, one of them's behind you, but you still got 3 more to close out the season before we start getting into playoff play. Obviously, you're not going to talk about that.
Playoffs.
Yeah,
Isn't that
exactly.
when you hit the-
Exactly. The Jim Mora quote. Playoffs.
No, playoffs.
But no, Coach, I really appreciate your time. We're hoping to be able to get over there and cover the game this week, but if not, good luck.
Appreciate it. As always.
Absolutely. Appreciate your
you
time.
guys.
Once again, Tiffin Columbian head football coach Judd Lutz joining us on the program. Folks, that's it. We made it through. If you're watching this far, if you've made it this far, do us a favor. Share the video, please. It takes 2 clicks, and you help us out so much. Also, you know what else helps us out? Subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter. Give us a follow. Give us a like. And, that's going to do it for Greg Kinn and Coach Judd Lutz. Also a big shout-out to Coach Ed Phillips for coming on from the Seneca East Football Tigers. I'm Nate Mullins, signing off from the bullpen here at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery on the Coach's Corner. You've been watching Heart of Ohio Sports. Thanks again.